Yeah, Paul Castiglione, you are in Binghamton, New York. And even though New York is as blue a state almost as Massachusetts, but Josh Riley, a Democrat, is running for an open seat, or actually he's trying to turn over a seat.
Yep.
Um, and you've been following it to some extent. Tell us about what you're hearing, what you're seeing. What do you think?
Well, this area actually is fairly red. It's similar to kind of Western Massachusetts if you think about it. It's very rural here. It's the city of Binghamton is an old Rust Belt city, but surrounding it is mostly farms, and there's some new industry. But it's essentially a red area in a very blue state.
And what about the fact that the universities there, State University of New York, Binghamton is a pretty big campus, right?
Yeah, I think there's about 15,000. Yeah, so good point. Yeah, there is a public university here.
And what impact do they have on the culture and the politics and so forth?
I to be honest, I mean, I have a pretty specific perspective
Yeah,
where my family, I grew up in this area. My family and the people that I'm connected with are, I should say, most of the people that I'm historically connected with lean red. I think the people that I'm connecting with now that I've moved back here in the last 9 months to care, not moved back, but I'm here temporarily caring for my elderly folks. So I'm getting a bit more connected, and it feels like there is a bit of blue happening, mostly with activities around the university that I'm connecting with.
right. Are you close to the university right now where you're standing?
Uh, it's not a very big area, so everything's about 15 minutes away in this
Uh-huh.
area.
And the growing up, and even now, when you've had quite a few leaning right, leaning Trump friends, family, people you know, um, yeah, how have you dealt with it? What's the interactions been like?
Uh, I think at this point, actually, now that we're just days away, like I just had coffee with my sister and my nephew and his girlfriend, and the feeling was, let's not talk politics.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
There was a
and
division. There was a division between you and your sister.
no, my sister is, well, I don't know. I mean, she should share her own story, but
Yeah,
no, there really isn't division with my sister. I
yeah,
think, some of her family, I think, has strong opinions,
yeah, yeah.
but my sister is pretty easy to talk to.
And how did you develop? How do you feel like you developed very progressive or quite progressive opinions? Cultural values and so forth in your life.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I talked to, some longtime friends who had very different perspectives when I was in college and in the military, and now I talk to them. Even my ex-wife, actually, they're, as my uh, perspective shifted, many of them were shocked. But I, but coming out of yeah, I think shifting out of corporate America,
Yeah.
where I bought hook, line, and sinker into the perspective of meritocracy.
Hmm.
So if you are successful, that means that you have made wise choices in your life, you've worked hard. And, gosh, if you aren't successful financially, then you've made poor choices, and meritocracy works. So once I left kind of corporate America, um, which is a lot, my story, long journey, but I connected with people that had different perspectives, had different life experiences, and I realized that this meritocracy theology, really, or ontology, really doesn't tell a complete story.
Yeah. And how did you fill it in? What gaps have you filled in, and with what in terms of philosophy or understanding?
No, I mean, it's just really talking with people, like meeting people who are immigrants. So I spent a lot of time, kind of sensing that there was, just kind of becoming aware of injustice, particularly around, immigrants who work extremely hard, who are doctors or professionals, back in their old country, and they come to America and they no longer have certifications that allow them to serve in those capacities. So they
Hmm.
really struggle to participate in, the economic, the American dream, so to speak.
Right.
And so just having those like real world experiences with people, honest, transparent relationships. And I'm like, hey, like all the stuff that I believed and that I personally experienced, other people have very different experiences. And so then I realized, all right, so maybe, America doesn't work the way I thought it did,
Yeah.
and it just was through human interactions. And it allowed me to be able to see the other, honestly, living in a world that's a meritocracy. There's a lot of otherizing that goes on. And that I think is required in order for me to be able to hold on to this kind of belief system that works just fine for me, and if it doesn't work for you, yeah, I just need to otherize, well, you don't, for whatever reason, you weren't able to participate, in order for my ontology to be able to hold together my belief system.
All right, so you're using some big words, but let me get back to the smaller words. Like, what about the contrast between the People's Republic of Cambridge and the People's Alternative Republic of Somerville, where you were living, and that's where I met you? The contrast between that and Binghamton.
Uh, yeah, I mean, so part of it is like urban life versus suburban life,
Mhm.
or rural life. In urban setting, I will naturally run into, like, if I'm participating in in a social scene, whether it's church or um, music or social settings, I run into people who aren't like me, just
Right.
naturally in an urban setting, and I care for people. And so, it opened me once I got to know people and believed them and their story. I got a different perspective. In a rural setting, like Broome County is extremely white. There isn't a lot of diversity in this area, so I don't meet people who aren't like me. You
Yeah.
know,
What's the
I
name
mean,
of the town? Yeah.
other than in downtown Binghamton, there's a large homeless population that tends to be people of
Uh,
color. And so my only interaction with people of color are like homeless people, in
uh,
downtown Binghamton who are struggling, to, have a connective, satisfying life, hopeful life.
well, if Josh Riley gets elected, and we're going to talk about him in a moment, if he does get elected, what change could he add to what impact would he have on the community?
Mm. Yeah, good question. Um, yeah, on this community, I mean, it's a blue state. So, like the governor is investing a lot, has historically invested a lot of money in the local university here. That's
Yeah.
been a pretty transformative experience. I mean, the big challenge in this area right now, as far as again, this is like 9 months of experience living in this area, but housing is a huge issue here. Affordable housing.
Uh,
Um, I mean, and it's also, I heard this, and I only through one source or only one time, so I'm not sure it's true, but I've heard that Broome County is the most depressed county in New York State.
whoa.
Um,
Whoa.
so, yeah, I think having, um, a compassionate, like New York State is very progressive in being able to support. Like my sister works for a pregnancy resource center, and so she helps me understand what New York State is doing for women who are, and couples really, man and woman, who are navigating unplanned pregnancy. There's
Yeah.
lots of support in New York for folks who are navigating that crisis
Yeah.
in their life.
Yeah.
Um, so what would, I think the biggest impact that I think Josh Riley would have is at the national level, really. inviting, can the House be turned?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Can
Yeah.
Hakeem Jeffries, be the majority leader rather than a minority leader in the House of Representatives? So I think, and I went to a Josh Riley event last night, as we
Yeah.
talked about.
Yeah. Tell me about that. Yeah.
Well, he had like 4 priorities, and let's see if I can remember them. I mean, the biggest one that I haven't heard other politicians actually talking about is creating laws that, shift Citizens United. I mean, look, Harris and Trump, I think each raised like $1 billion. I mean,
Yeah.
that's unbelievable. I mean, talk about, I believe power comes in 2 forms. One is people and the other is money. And when you got that kind of money on the scene, it's a lot of power and influence. So anyway, so Citizens United, he talked about, the ACA,
Yeah.
the House of Representatives, Mike Johnson wants to, get rid, and Trump wants to get rid of the ACA.
Which is
So,
Obamacare.
which is
Right.
Obamacare.
Yeah.
And a big, you know, feature of Obamacare is pre-existing conditions.
Right. Right.
So Josh Riley wants to, ensure that those features and benefits
Yeah.
are long lasting.
Yeah.
The third one was, the older I get, my memory is
That's
just
okay.
not, but they're all
No, but
important.
yeah. I mean, those 2 are big ones. Like, what was the response of the audience? How big was it? And what do you think of his chances to win?
So I don't know about his chances to win, but at the event, there was probably like 300 people there last night, I would say at
Okay.
least. And
And Hakeem Jeffries was there.
yeah, Hakeem Jeffries graduated from Binghamton University,
Oh, right.
the public university here in Binghamton.
Yeah.
So sorry, tell me your question one more time.
No, it's okay. Was he running right now in a primary, or there's no primary? He just, we would have had the primary. Yeah.
Yeah, we already had the primary. He's
Primary.
a
Yeah.
Democratic candidate.
Yeah.
He said, like, what they said last night was, Democrats, and Harris has this perspective as well. Democrats will win if they work harder than the Republicans. And he said that last night. Josh Riley said that they have knocked on 191,000 doors in this area.
Yeah.
And he said that that was the most of any
Campaign.
House district campaign in the country.
Wow.
I'm
Wow.
going to be canvassing for him tomorrow and
Good.
Monday.
Well, good. And I want to, I want to congratulate you, and I want to wish you the best of luck. I want to wish, if you can tell Josh Riley, I want to wish him the best of luck. And it looks like it might be another blue district. And good luck on all of that, Paul. And say hi to Binghamton.
All right, I will. Thanks, Johnny.
Okay.
As always, appreciate you, brother.
Take care. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Man. Okay. Bye-bye. Yeah, right. I know.